Hi everyone, welcome back to the Stitches and Scribbles channel. My name is Erin and I've got another podcast episode for you guys today. I've had a really busy week of making things and trying to be on top of videos, and this week is 4th of July. The day that you're seeing this 4th of July would have been yesterday. I know I have some non-American viewers, but 4th of July is Independence Day in the United States. So the day you're seeing this, yesterday there would have been lots of parades and stuff like that going on, but I have relatives who are in town for the week for the holiday, so I tried to do a bunch of pre-filming last week to get videos up and uploaded so that I didn't have to worry about it this week and I could focus on just the podcast and making some projects off camera where I could. So that's kind of what I'm doing today. But I wanted to do a podcast episode because I do actually have quite a few items to show you today, which is weird for me now that I'm like back into kind of a more productive crafting schedule, that I have stuff to show you guys. So figured I'd pop in and just kind of show you what I've been up to. A lot of these items are things that I'm taking to the farmer's market that I have a booth at. So I had lots of plushies done. But I'm also kind of working on some patterns that I want to release over the next couple months, including a new one that I have to show you. So let's go ahead and jump into finished objects first. I actually have a lot of plushies to show you. If you follow me on TikTok, you would have seen these in a TikTok video already. But I made a batch of plushies where I was trying out some new patterns in addition to restocking some of the ones that I've sold in the last week. So the first pattern that was new to me that I tried was this whale pattern. However, I'm not nuts about how it turned out. I got some really positive feedback from someone on TikTok saying that they thought it was cute, but I think that the proportions are just very off in this pattern. I think the body is like too tall. It needed like a few less rows here. And I don't really like that the tail was constructed using double treble crochets, because that means that there's pretty large gaps between the stitches. Overall, like, it's not bad. I'm still going to put it on my table, but I think I'm going to look for a different whale pattern in the future, and maybe look for one that turns out a little bit smaller so that it can be more in my $20 range of plushies versus this one I would probably charge $30 for, like my chickens and mushrooms that I usually make. Which I do need to make some more chickens and mushrooms, but I think it was Friday last week, I realized I had a whole day with no specific projects to do, so I dedicated that day to testing new plushie patterns, and this is one of the ones that I tested. So he's still cute. I do like the yarn that I chose. This is the Bernat Baby Blanket Sparkle collection. I get it from Joann, and in my Joann store it's with all of the baby yarn instead of with the rest of the blanket yarn, but I really like the sparkle line that's been in there. It makes some fun colors for some of my little shoppers. They tend to like the sparkly plushies, but I like the colors that I used for this. It was the like mint color and the white. I don't remember what the color names were. I think I talked about them in a previous episode of the podcast if you want to go back to when I bought a bunch of the sparkle blanket yarn, but I don't remember what the color names were for this guy. So that's the whale. I'm not going to link the pattern for this one because I didn't actually like the pattern, but if I find a better whale pattern, I'll make sure to share it with you guys. This was one that I got off of Instagram from one of those like free pattern accounts where the pattern is just in the like, I think it's called a carousel where you swipe through the pictures. The pattern was just in one of those pictures. It wasn't like a link or anything. But again, when I find a pattern that I like better for a whale, I'll share that one with you. I think part of the problem with this pattern was that it was meant for acrylic yarn, and that maybe was affected by like having too many rows, but also it was a free pattern, so who knows if the picture that went with it was even one made with that pattern, because sometimes that kind of gets a little dicey. So I'll be on the hunt for a better whale pattern and then share it with you guys. One of the other new patterns that I tried was this little bunny. I think this one turned out adorable. This was also from an Instagram link. But I want to make him one more time to like really make sure I like it before I share it with you guys. So you can be on the lookout for a bunny pattern shared in a future podcast episode if you're interested. I liked this one because I try to stick to very minimal crochet plushies. That's probably why I do so many sea creatures. There's not as many limbs to attach, or a lot of like the fish and octopus patterns, the limbs are like part of the rounds. You don't have to attach them. So I liked this bunny pattern because it was just the ears and the tail that you had to add on, which made it pretty easy to do. But I think this turned out so cute. I will definitely be making a lot of these to add to my non-sea creature collection for my craft fair stuff. I think the only other non like fish creatures I have are the chickens and the mushrooms. Oh, and the bumblebees. I haven't made bumblebees in a while. I should bring those back. And the frogs, I guess, are not sea creatures technically, but they kind of feel like they're in the same category, being amphibians. But I really like this little bunny pattern. I did embroider the eyes and the nose on the way that I usually do. I tend to not use safety eyes for my plushies just because it's an extra material that I have to keep track of, and I always end up with scraps of colors. So as long as I have some black scraps and like some pink scraps to do like cheek blushes or noses, that seems to work better for me. That also means that I don't have to worry about the safety eyes possibly falling off or anything like that. So I try to just embroider features using that blanket yarn. And that kind of gives me a different style from a lot of people who make plushies, because I do end up at some craft fairs where there are other crocheters who make some very similar designs, but that kind of makes mine look a little bit different. I also like that then they're completely soft. And then the other thing I do to make sure that my plushies look different is are different is that I add the gardening marbles inside of them so that they have a little bit of weight to them that helps them not tip over at outdoor markets as well. All right, the last new pattern I tried on that day where I was making a bunch of new things is this little stingray pattern. I really like this one. I think it turned out very, very cute, and it's definitely a more unique creature. Like I don't think I've seen anyone else selling stingrays before at markets, so I'm excited to add this little guy. He was also super easy because he's crocheted all in one piece, so that was really nice. I like patterns that are like completely no-sew, where like you don't even have to like make the limbs separately and then crochet them on. Like there's no attaching of limbs involved at all. It's all made in one piece. Other thing I made was another little octopus. I've made a million of these, but I keep selling them. So I sold 2 last week. So I was going to make 2 replacement ones. I only got to 1. But I like this patterned yarn. I've had it in my stash for a while and I'm slowly going through it, but that seems to be a popular octopus color. But I think it could also work for the whales and maybe some of my other creatures that I make. I don't think it would work for like frogs or chickens or the mushrooms because that just wouldn't look right. But I think for a lot of the like fishy type creatures, that color could work. And then because I've sold a bunch of leggy frogs, I made 2 more leggy frogs. This one I actually started while I was out of town for Father's Day, but I lost yarn chicken, so I had to get more dark green blanket yarn just to finish the last leg on him. And then this almost used up my supply of the lime green sparkle yarn. I think I might have enough to make 1 more leggy frog in this color, but this is from that sparkle collection as well that I really like. This was from the regular Bernat blanket yarn line, and I got both of those colors at Joann as well as all of the other ones that I just showed you. I really like checking both the regular Bernat blanket yarn section and the baby blanket section because they do carry slightly different colors. I've noticed even that like the off-white in both sections is different. The off-white from the like regular blanket yarn section is a little bit darker and kind of like dustier looking than the one in the baby section, which is more of a like creamy off-white, if that makes sense. So definitely if you're looking to make plushies or anything with the blanket yarn, make sure you check both sections because they do have slightly different colors, even in the ones that like you'd think would be the same. So make sure you check it out. I really like that kind of color line is expanding. I've also now seen that they have the like super jumbo blanket yarn, and I kind of want to get it to make like a giant plushie, but I don't know what plushie I would do because I don't think that would be something I could sell at my craft fair, because the like cost per item would end up being too high. But if there's like a plushie that I really want to make for myself that's gigantic, I might try that giant yarn just for fun because it looks like it'd be very fun. It's like, it almost looks like 3 times as thick, or at least twice as thick as the regular blanket yarn. So I think that would mean that whatever I made with it would be twice as big, but we'll have to see. I did go on a Joann run last week, which is where I got the like remaining dark green yarn for the frog that I needed to finish. But I also picked up some more cotton because I have a couple of patterns that I'm hoping to release this summer that require, I guess they don't require, but I'm using cotton yarn for them. So I picked some colors to hopefully be like some of the ones that I actually photograph for the pattern. And I've got 2 different things coming out. So the first one, at least I think it's going to be the first one that comes out, is a water bottle purse that I showed samples of last week. I have made a couple more, but they're all in my like craft fair stash. I'll have to like leave a couple out next time I make a batch of them so that you can see. But those like look fine in solid colors, so I'll probably just use stuff from my stash for those patterns. But the other one I'm working on is actually a purse. And I've discovered with this purse pattern that I designed that I like doing it in 2 colors, like a pattern and a solid, because it adds some color contrast. So I got some pairs of cotton yarn where a solid color coordinates with a variegated one so that I can make the like different purses and photograph them for the pattern itself. For both the water bottle purse and the like pocket purse designs that I'm working on, I want them to have multiple options for the stitch used for the pattern, which is why I'm going to need 4 different designs for each one. So that's why I got 4 pairs of yarn from Joann for the like pocket purse pattern, so that I can make the 4 designs and the 4 different stitch patterns to photograph them all. I hope all of that made sense. I bought cotton yarn is basically what the point of that was. So the first pairing I got was this one. So this is the Lily Sugar and Cream in the color teal and in the color Summerfield. So the teal obviously is a deep teal color, and then this color is some reds, teals, lime green, kind of an off-white, and some brown. So this was like, gave me summer camp vibes, so I was really excited about this pairing as one of my first ones. I also picked a more neutral pairing just for some contrast, so I have these 2 next. This is the color Jute, is the beige, and Wooded Moss is this variegated. So it's kind of a tan beige color for the solid, and then the variegated one has some sage green, some pale yellow, white, and then the same light brown beige color. I'm really hoping that these are showing up right on camera. I know that my filming light is pretty bright and sometimes it washes the colors out. The next pairing I got, actually both of the remaining pairings kind of gave me mermaid vibes, but this is my next one. So the solid color is called Rainforest. It's kind of a in between a teal and an emerald green kind of color, and then the pattern is called Kelp. So it has some minty tones in it, some teal, some sage green, and like aqua colors, definitely giving mermaid vibes. And then also in the mermaid vibes category is this pairing. So the solid color for this one is called Beach Glass. It's a very minty, pale teal. And then the pattern I picked for it is called Crown Jewels Ombre. Whoops. And this one has a couple shades of purple and lavender, the like minty teal color, as well as a deeper teal, and even like an eggplant purple in there. So those are the 4 color combos. These two, I guess I haven't quite decided which solid will go with which pattern because they are kind of interchangeable, but those are all of the colors that I purchased for these projects. So over the next couple weeks, I'm hoping to get the water bottle pattern out like beginning of August, end of July if I'm like really ambitious. And then I'm hoping to do the purse pattern sometime in August or September. So both of them are kind of in like my final phases of testing. So I'm moving towards working on the like final designs for each pattern. However, since they're both going to be like 4-in-1 patterns, or at least 3-in-1 patterns, it's taking me a lot longer to make the samples because I have to test each one a couple times. They're both fairly simple. They're going to be like beginner friendly patterns, but I wanted to make sure that if you were choosing to purchase and download the pattern, since they are more on the simple side, that they had more options to them. So that's kind of the big goal for the next couple weeks, is to get those out. It does help that they're also a product that I can sell in my farmer's market shop. So that's where the samples have been going as of right now. They're just kind of joining my craft fair stash. But yeah, there aren't really a whole lot of whips I have to show you because a lot of them I've kind of like picked up here and there but haven't really made any significant progress on them. Just kind of doing things where they make sense, but I'm kind of more in craft fair production zone at the moment, so you'll probably see lots of like smaller items that I'm working on, but they won't necessarily be whips because they're usually done in under 3 hours is usually my goal for craft fair items. I do have one that I started that actually I really liked how it turned out, and I think I want to attempt to write this up as a pattern as well. But it started with, I just was feeling kind of burnt out from my other projects, so I wanted to do something that was like purely creative and just fun. So I decided to go through my scrap bin and kind of picked a color palette from my scraps of yarn and decided that I was going to make a shoulder bag. And in my head I was calling this like a hippie shoulder bag, I think because it reminds me of those like tie-dye or batik fabric bags that were really popular for a while, of the like simple shoulder bag shape made with like brightly colored kind of funky dyed cotton. But that shape was what I had in mind. So this is the bag that I created. It was entirely just out of my head. I did not follow any patterns for this, but I used the moss stitch and did a different color for every row, finished with a couple rows of cream, and then made the strap out of cream as well. Obviously I need to weave in the ends. The inside of the bag is kind of a mess with the number of ends that are in there, but I really liked how the shape of this turned out. So I think I do want to attempt to recreate this and write it up as a pattern. This is also not a color palette that I wear, so it'll probably be a shop item for me. I'm also working on, don't lose the hook. I'm working on a pocket to put on the front, and this is just a linen stitch square. But because there are so many ends, I kind of am thinking that maybe I want to actually, for real this time, pull out my sewing machine and attempt to line the inside of the bag. And then maybe I won't have to weave in all of the ends, or at least not as much. I can kind of like just knot the ends and cut them, and then line the bag instead, which kind of weird that I am like more in favor of learning an entirely new craft instead of just weaving in my ends. But if you've ever had a project like this with that many ends, you probably know the feeling of wanting to do just about anything to avoid weaving in those ends. But I think making a bag liner would be a good first sewing project, just from some other like sewing videos that I've watched online. I think that that's a good idea. If you have experience with sewing, like, let me know in the comments below if that is actually a good starter project to try to line a crochet bag. I'm thinking I can just trace the bag itself on fabric, and if I trace around the bag, that'll like give me enough room for seam allowance. Maybe. If you have any experience with that, let me know in the comments though, because I will probably need help. You'll also probably see it in a vlog, because if I'm going to put that much effort into learning a new craft, I'm going to put it on YouTube. That's just how it works now. But I think that's kind of all I have to show you for today. Lots of finished items, a little bit of a yarn haul, some like pattern updates. But yeah, I think that's kind of it for this, I was about to say this vlog, for this podcast. Thank you to everyone who's been watching my videos, leaving comments, subscribing, buying my patterns on Etsy. All of that is really helping out. I am inching closer and closer and closer to being a part of the YouTube partner program. I actually like got to a point where I got to start like some of the process to get monetized, but I'm not quite there yet. So every little bit helps. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to follow me on other social media, that information will be in the description box below. And thank you again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.